At my brother's wedding, the ballroom glowed gold candles in glass cylinders, roses spilling out of crystal vases, my mother's laughter echoing under the chandelier. It helped plan every detail, the playlist, the seating chart, the dessert table. It even double-checked the place cards that morning, smoothing them with a kind of pride, like I could iron the wrinkles out of our entire family. By the time the band started its second set, my feet hurt and my cheeks ached from smiling. My brother Daniel spun his new wife, Emily, across the dance floor while the crowd circled them, phones lifted, faces shining. It was the moment we'd all been waiting for, their first dance as husband and wife. I stood near the edge of the crowd, my husband, Mark, at my side. He slipped his arm around my waist, pulling me closer. I didn't have to look up to know he was smiling. His hand was relaxed, loose, the way it only got when he felt at home. Looks like everything turned out perfect, he said in my ear. Yeah, I answered, watching Daniel's face soft with happiness. Perfect. The band swelled, and the guests clapped in rhythm. I felt more than heard, Mark's chest rumble with a half laugh. For a moment, I let myself lean into him, soaking in the warmth, the music, the way the world felt briefly and possibly aligned. It didn't last. I'm gonna go find some water, I said. Do you want anything? He shook his head, already turning toward a group of his friends at the bar. I'm good. Don't get lost. I rolled my eyes and slipped away through the crowd, dodging a tipsy cousin and an aunt determined to show off her questionable salsa. The hallway outside the ballroom was dimmer, quieter, the thud of bass muffled behind the double doors. A staff member hurried past with a tray of champagne flutes, and the sound of clinking glass followed him around the corner. I headed toward the restrooms, my heels tapping on the polished floor. As I passed the coatroom, a small, half-open door with a staff-only sign hanging crookedly, I heard it. A breath, low, sharp, then a muffled sound that didn't belong to an empty room. I slowed. Shh, a voice whispered from inside. A voice I knew as well as my own. Marked. At first, my brain refused to line up the sounds with the reality in front of me. Maybe he was on the phone. Maybe someone else was in there. Maybe, then I heard a faint, breathy laugh. Feminine. Familiar in a way that made my skin pull tight over my bones. I shouldn't be here, she whispered. My sister-in-law, not Amelia's bride, was still in the ballroom, soaking up attention, her white dress impossible to miss. This was my other sister-in-law, Rachel, my older brother's wife, the one who'd helped me arrange centerpieces, who cried to me on the phone last year when her marriage hit a rough patch, who hugged me in the kitchen on Thanksgiving and said, "At least we have each other." My hand found the edge of the door before I realized it moved. It was open just a crack, enough for a strip of light to cut across the hallway carpet. My pulse thudded in my ears. You don't want to know, some part of me whispered. You do not want to see this. But my fingers tightened and I pushed. The door swung inward on a room crowded with coats and garment bags, smelling faintly of dust and perfume. In the middle of it, pressed up against a row of hanging tuxedo bags, were two figures. Mark's jacket was open, his tie loosened, one hand braced against the wall. His other hand was buried in the silky fabric of a pale blue dress. Rachel's dress. Her lipstick, deep red to match the bridesmaid's, was smudged at the corner of her mouth. Her hands were fisted in his shirt. For a fraction of a second, they didn't notice me. Time gathered itself, then stretched thin. Rachel's eyes opened first. They met mine, and everything in her face, surprise, guilt, panic, flashed across it in one shattering second. She jerked away like she'd been burned. Mark turned his head, following her movement, and saw me. His mouth opened. Wait, the words splintered the spell. All at once, the world rushed back in, the muffled music from the ballroom, the faint clatter of dishes from the kitchen, the soft hiss of the ventilation pushing cool air into the cramped room. My first thought was absurd. Don't wrinkle the tuxedos. They cost so much to rent. Then my vision sharpened, and the absurdity vanished. Mark's hair was mussed in a way I hadn't done. Rachel's lipstick was on his throat. Every second between news nets we'd shared a bed, the meals we'd cooked, the whispered plans for a future that now felt laughable compressed into a single, brutal point. Get out, I said. It came out flat. Not a scream, not a sob. Just a line drawn across the floor. Listen, Mark started, stepping forward, hands raised like I was a stray dog he didn't want to spook. It's not what, don't. My voice cracked on the word, more from the effort of holding myself together than from tears. Don't insult me like that. Rachel had turned away, her back to me, shoulders shaking as she tried to zip up the part of her dress that had dipped to low. Her hair, usually perfect, hung in a messy curtain around her face. She began, her voice small. Don't, I repeated. This time it was directed at both of them. Just don't. Behind me, someone laughed in the ballroom, the sound bright and distant, like it belonged to another world. In a way, it did. I stepped back into the hallway, my hand still on the doorknob, needing something solid to anchor me. The floor felt slippery under my heels, like the ground had tilted and no one had bothered to warn me. Mark followed me to the threshold. Can we talk? Please. Not here, not here? I repeated, a bitter, disbelieving little laugh escaping me. You chose here. You both did. His jaw clenched, eyes darting past me like he was checking to see if anyone else had seen, if this little disaster could still be contained. The same instinct he had when a glass shattered at home. Step in control, manage the mess before anyone got hurt. Too late for that. I didn't mean for he started. You meant it enough to do it, I said. At my brother's wedding, with my sister-in-law. The words hung between us, obscene in their accuracy. I heard the soft rustle of fabric behind him. As Rachel moved, then her voice, fragile but clear. I'm sorry. I met her eyes over Mark's shoulder. They were red, rimmed with mascara. For a second, I saw last summer's barbecuer sitting on our patio, laughing at something Mark had said, the sun turning her hair to gold. They'd gone inside to refill the lemonade. They'd left them alone together. They'd trusted both of them. I realized with clinical detachment that this probably wasn't the first time. In the ballroom, the band transitioned into a slower song. I recognized it, one Daniel had picked for the father-daughter dance. My dad would be looking for me soon. My mother would be scanning the room, making sure everyone was where they were supposed to be. I was exactly where I wasn't supposed to be. Here's what's going to happen, I said, surprised at the steadiness of my own voice. You are going to walk out of here one at a time, separately. You're going to fix your clothes. You're going to go back in there and act like nothing is wrong. Because today is not about you, or me, or this. I gestured vaguely toward the coatroom, toward the entire wreck of them. It's about my brother, I said, and I will not let you blow up his wedding. Mark swallowed, throat working. And after? He asked quietly. After? I repeated. After, everything changes. The words felt like an oath. Rachel stepped forward, one hand still smoothing the front of her dress like she could erase the wrinkles, the evidence. Do you want me to leave? She asked. It was barely more than a whisper. I thought of my older brother, her husband, out there somewhere in the ballroom, raising a glass to Daniel, probably making some dumb, heartfelt speech about love and loyalty, and how grateful he was to have family. My chest hurt. No, I said. You're going to stay. You're going to smile. You're going to dance with him like you haven't already broken something you can't fix. Because I am not tearing this apart tonight. Her face crumpled, like my mercy hurt more than my anger would have. For a second, I almost took it back, almost told her to grab her things and disappear. But I pictured the look on my brother's face when he realized his marriage had just ended on the night we were celebrating another one. I couldn't do that to him. Not yet, though, I said. Rachel slipped past me first, her perfume lingering in the air like a ghost. She didn't look back. A few seconds later, I heard the ballroom door open. The music swelled, then close again. Mark stayed. I love you, he said suddenly, desperately, like those words were the last sandbags he could throw against a flood. My whole body went cold. Don't say that to me, I replied, not in the same breath as this. He flinched. For a moment, his eyes shone with the man I'd married, one who'd held my hand at my grandmother's funeral, who'd stayed up all night with me when I had the flu, who danced with me in the kitchen to songs we didn't know the words to. I understood, in that instant, that he could be both men at the same time, that loving someone did not make them incapable of hurting you in ways you couldn't come back from. I didn't want you to find out like this, he said. Something in me snapped. How were you going to do it then? I asked, my voice low and shaking, anger finally catching up. Between the cake cutting and the bouquet toss, during the first toast, hey honey, beautiful night, by the way, I've been sleeping with your sister-in-law. His face twisted. It wasn't like that. It just happened. That's the problem with you, I said. Everything just happens. Nothing is your fault. You just end up in rooms like this, with people like her, making choices you can pretend you didn't make. We stared at each other. The hallway hummed with distant life. Here, everything stood still. I realized distantly that I wasn't crying yet. We're going to talk, I said finally. But not tonight. Not here. You are going to go back in there. You are going to act like the man my family thinks you are. And when this is over, when the last guest goes home, you are going to pack a bag, and you are not coming back to our house until I say so. If I say so. He opened his mouth, closed it, then nodded. It was small, almost imperceptible. But I saw it. I'm so sorry, he whispered. Then be sorry somewhere else, I replied. He brushed past me, his shoulder grazing mine. The contact burned like ice. I smelled his cologne, the one I'd given him last Christmas, now tainted by the memory of this room. When the door to the ballroom closed behind him, the silence rushed back in. Alone in the hallway, I pressed my hand flat against the cool wall, breathing in slow measured counts. 1, 2, 3. The music swelled again, my father's favorite song. I pictured him extending his hand toward me on that dance floor, proud and smiling, unaware of the small, detonated world just outside those doors. I straightened my dress, wiped a smudge of mascara from under my eye with my thumb, practiced a smile that didn't show my teeth. Then I walked back into the ballroom. The light hit me, warm and bright. Someone grabbed my hand, me mother, eyes shining, cheeks flushed. There you are, she said. Your brother's about to make his speech. Come on, stand with us. I slipped into place between my parents, my brother, my new sister-in-law in her white dress, her happiness shining like something holy. Across the room, Mark stood by the bar, his expression smooth, empty. Rachel sat at a table with her husband, laughing at something he said, her hand resting over. No one could tell that the story of my marriage had just split in half, that there would always be a before and an after this night. My brother tapped his glass with a fork, the soft chime cutting through the nose. The room quieted. I just want to say, he began, looking at his bride, voice thick with emotion, that love is about trust. It's about choosing each other, over and over again. The words washed over me, gentle as a lie. I felt something settle inside me then. Not forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But a thin, hard line of resolve. I would survive this. I didn't know what that survival would look like yet, or who I would be on the other side of it. But I would not let the worst thing they'd done define the rest of my life. Under the glittering chandeliers, surrounded by toasts and promises and carefully arranged flowers, I stood very still and held my own broken heart like something precious. And when the room erupted in applause for the bride and groom, I clapped tooled and steady while inside. I quietly began writing my story, without the man who'd just proven he didn't deserve to be in it. Follow me for more interesting stories such as this. Check my page for the next